I fell into the water at the same time as Sophia. Ethan chose to save Sophia over me, dragging my injured leg. I crawled ashore and asked him for a divorce. Ethan looked confused. Sophia can't swim. I went to save her. Is that such a big deal? Even our 5-year-old son, Liam, chimed in coldly. Mom, you're fine. Why make such a fuss? I slapped Ethan across the face and smirked. Yes, I am petty like that. Ethan turned his head slowly, his jaw tightening as he suppressed his anger. Emily, can't you calm down? Liam, being young and emotional, started crying. No wonder Dad saved Aunt Sophia instead of you. You're such a horrible woman. You deserve to fall in the water. I dragged my sore leg over and smacked him on the backside. Yes, I'm horrible. Go ask Sophia to be your mom. Sophia quickly stepped in, holding Liam protectively in her arms. When she glanced at me, she smiled provocatively and said in a sweet tone, Emily, he's just a child. He didn't mean what he said. How could you hit him? Liam clung to her, screaming. I didn't say anything I didn't mean. I don't want her as my mom. She's stupid. She can't ride a horse, can't play golf, and she's nothing compared to Aunt Sophia. Dad doesn't like her, and neither do I. Before Liam could say more, Ethan scolded him sharply. Liam, that's enough. Stop misbehaving. Then, standing protectively in front of Sophia and Liam, he looked like the perfect husband and father. Sophia added, with mock pity, this child is so adorable and sensible. I wouldn't have the heart to discipline him. You're really cruel as a mother. I glared at her and sneered coldly. Say one more word, and I'll make sure the next slap lands on your face. Her smug smile froze instantly. Laughing bitterly, I turned and left the beach, leaving the happy family behind. The next day, I handed Ethan the divorce papers. He adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses, his brows furrowed, and sighed. You've taken this too far. Things won't end well if you keep making a scene. Stop talking. Just sign it. I replied. Assets will be split according to the prenup. Liam's custody goes to you. Liam inherited Ethan's cold-hearted nature and lack of affection for me. Forcing him to stay with me would only make things worse. He was better off with Ethan. Ethan put the divorce papers down and looked at me, confusion written all over his cold face. All this over what happened yesterday? Sophia can't swim. I went to save her. What's the problem? You were fine, weren't you? Is this really worth a divorce? His righteous tone made it sound like as long as I didn't die in the water, he had done nothing wrong. Yesterday, Ethan and I took Liam to the beach. At some point, Ethan left for a while, returning with Sophia. He claimed he had run into her by chance and brought her along because she was alone. Despite my displeasure, Liam happily ran into her arms, exclaiming, Aunt Sophia, I missed you so much, even though it's only been a day. It was then I realized Ethan and Sophia had been in contact all along, even bringing Liam to meet her multiple times. When I looked at Ethan, his expression darkened as he nervously explained, I ran into her a few times while picking Liam up from school. That's all. His flimsy excuses only deepened my disappointment. Later, a large wave swept over us, dragging Sophia and me into the water. The water wasn't deep, and the waves weren't strong enough to drown anyone. It felt more like a test of true intentions, and Ethan chose her. He forgot I was his wife, forgot the injury on my leg from saving him before, and abandoned me without hesitation. So now, when he asks if it's worth divorcing him over this, my answer is simple. Yes, it is. They can choose not to love me, but I must love myself. Looking him directly in the eye, I asked, what if I wasn't fine? What if I couldn't crawl out of the water with my injured leg? Ethan, the only reason I'm standing here asking for a divorce is that I'm still alive. Ethan opened his mouth to retort. But you're... He stopped mid-sentence, realizing how wrong his words sounded, and turned his gaze away awkwardly. Taking a deep breath, he tried to maintain his composure, but his words were more of a threat than advice. If you leave me, you're alone. No parents, no family. Where will you go? I smiled faintly, pushing the papers toward him. That's none of your business. Sign it. Consider it repayment for the life I once saved. Ethan prided himself on his dignity. He hated being reminded of how I had saved him. He also firmly believed I wouldn't leave Liam behind. Hearing my mention of his life debt, his face turned stormy. Fine. Divorce it is. But don't think I'll make it easy for you if you want to come back. Use this time to reflect. Eventually, I got the divorce certificate I wanted. Returning to the house we had lived in for 7 years, I packed up my belongings. The house was large, filled with countless things, but very little of it belonged to me. I looked around at the expensive and exquisite objects scattered throughout the house. Finally, I went to the attic and retrieved the only thing that truly belonged to me, my sketchboard. I slung it over my shoulder and walked out of the villa. As I reached the gate, I saw Liam standing on the balcony of the second floor. His lips were pressed tightly together. His small face cold and expressionless. He stood there quietly, watching me. I figured he was hoping I'd do what I always did. Go to him, coax him, kiss him, and apologize. I stopped in my tracks and glanced back at him. After a moment, I sighed and softly said, "Eat well. Sleep well. From now on, Mommy won't be by your side. Take care of yourself." Liam's eyes reddened, but he turned his head away with a cold snort. "If you want to leave, then leave. Aunt Sophia will take care of me. I don't need you." I paused for a moment, but I didn't say anything else. Under the setting sun, I carried my sketchboard and walked away from the villa. Liam wasn't always like this. Before Sophia returned, he was sweet and considerate. When his friends teased him about me not being able to ride horses or play golf, he'd always defend me with a serious face, saying, "So what? As long as she loves me, that's all that matters." But after Sophia came back from abroad and Ethan brought him to meet her a few times, he changed. The boy who once only loved me started disdaining me for my humble background. He refused to let me pick him up from kindergarten, and when his friends came over to play, he'd tell me to leave and not come back until they were gone. Even when I cried on my parents' death anniversary, he coldly accused me of being undignified. Looking back, I realize how alike Ethan and Liam are. Father and son, cut from the same cloth. They like the same people and dislike the same people. They both adore Sophia and despise me. When I first realized Ethan didn't love me, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't bear his betrayal. But I also couldn't let go of Liam. Yet Liam's disdain made my reluctance seem laughable. The road out of the villa neighborhood wasn't long, but it felt like it took me 7 years to walk it. Under the twilight glow, memories of the past rushed back. 15 years ago, my father died saving Ethan's father. My mother, devastated by grief, passed away soon after. Left alone at a young age, I ended up at the Ethan family's home. Ethan, the only son of the family, was an untouchable young master. But back then, he treated me well. So well that I couldn't help but fall for him. That was until he fell in love with Sophia and started dating her. I buried my feelings for him deep inside. Even after they broke up, I never dared to hope for anything more. But after I saved him during an accident, he suddenly came to me. With the support of his parents, he began pursuing me. He was the person I'd loved for years. I couldn't bring myself to reject him. Eventually, after his persistent pursuit, I agreed to be with him. We followed the usual path, marriage. Then having Liam, I thought we'd be together forever. But Sophia's return shattered that dream. 3 months ago, I went to pick him up after he got drunk. Standing outside the private room, I overheard his friends talking about Sophia. "Sophia's back. What are you going to do?" Ethan, propping his head up with one hand and swirling a glass of red wine with the other, let out a faint, helpless smile. "What can I do? I'm already married." His friends teased him further. "What if you weren't? Back then, you two were so in love. You almost gave your life for her." Ethan let out a bitter laugh. "What nonsense are you talking about?" "Oh, right." One of them said mockingly. "It was your wife who saved you, even losing the use of her leg. You owe her for that. So you can't betray her." The bitter smile on Ethan's lips was like a dagger to my heart. I couldn't bring myself to step into the room. That was when I realized he had never loved me. All he felt for me was guilt. I had been trapped in his web of lies for 7 years. But at least now, it wasn't too late. Under the twilight glow, I finally stepped toward freedom. I moved into the hotel I had arranged beforehand. That evening, I received a call from Ethan's parents. They didn't know yet that Ethan and I were divorced and kindly asked when I would bring Liam to the family home for dinner. Thinking about Ethan's father's high blood pressure, I swallowed the words about our divorce that were on the tip of my tongue. Instead, I shook my head and said, "I've been busy lately." After the call ended, I sent Ethan a message. "Your parents just called to ask when I'll bring Liam back for dinner. I managed to brush them off this time, but you should tell them soon that we're divorced." It took a long while before he replied, "Got it." Feeling that I'd done my part, I decided there was nothing left tying us together. After some thought, I blocked his number completely. That night, I ran my fingers over the sketchboard I had brought from the villa. Memories of my childhood came flooding back. Sitting in my parents' arms and declaring, "When I grow up, I'm going to be a great artist." My parents had lovingly patted my head, their smiles filled with pride. "Our little Emily will definitely become the best artist in the world." But after I moved into the Ethan household, I never picked up a paintbrush again. Back then, Ethan's parents had gently advised me, "Emily, why don't you study something more practical? Ethan is studying this field too." Blame my youthful indecision. I was dazzled by things that didn't belong to me and abandoned my dreams to walk a path that wasn't mine. Now, looking at the sketchboard, its faded surface reminded me of the dreams I had forgotten. No matter how much I tried to clean it, the stains remained. Still, after a while, they began to fade. Seeing the board become visibly brighter, I couldn't help but smile. I took out the paintbrushes I had bought earlier and pressed a sheet of paper onto the board, trying to recapture the joy I felt as a child. Just as my brush touched the paper, my phone rang, interrupting me. The number was familiar. It was Ethan's assistant, Ryan. "Ma'am, Mr. Ethan is drunk from a business dinner. He insists on seeing you. Are you available to come pick him up?" In the past, whenever Ethan got drunk, he'd always demand I pick him up. His assistant was used to calling me. But now, we were divorced. I put the brush down and replied, my tone soft but firm, "I'm not available. Ethan and I are divorced. Please don't call me again about this." Suddenly, I heard the sound of something breaking in the background. I paused, then continued calmly, "You can check Ethan's phone. There's someone named Sophia in his contacts. She'd be more suitable to pick him up." As I was about to hang up, I heard a strange noise on the other end. Then Ethan's hoarse voice came through, laced with suppressed anger. "Emily, are you really going to abandon me?" For a moment, I thought I must have misheard. After all, a man who cheated on me had no right to sound so self-righteous. I chuckled lightly and said goodbye to Ryan before hanging up. Picking up my paintbrush again, I poured my turbulent emotions onto the paper. I stayed up late that night, so when the phone woke me the next morning, my tone was naturally a bit irritable. "Who's calling so early?" On the other end, the voice of the villa's housekeeper was cautious. "Emily, Liam is sick. Ethan left early this morning, and we haven't been able to reach him. Can you come back to check on Liam?" Hearing that Liam was sick, I immediately felt a pang of worry. No mother can remain calm upon hearing that her child is ill, even if that child doesn't love her. After a moment's pause, I quickly replied, "I'll come right away." When I entered Liam's room, I saw him lying alone on the bed, looking small and vulnerable. My heart ached as I hurried to his side and placed my hand on his forehead. "Are you feeling unwell?" When Liam saw me, his eyes reddened, and for a fleeting moment, he looked as if he wanted to cry. But the next second, he pushed my hand away, pulled the blanket over his head, and muffled his voice. "You left. Why did you come back? You shouldn't have come back." Liam rarely got sick, but seeing him so weak like this filled me with an indescribable sorrow. My resolve from the past few days softened instantly. I sat down on the edge of the bed, gently pulling the blanket down a little to ensure he could breathe properly. That's when I saw his flushed little face, his red, swollen eyes brimming with unshed tears. I froze for a moment, and a wave of regret swept over me. Liam was only 5 years old. What could he possibly understand? His resentment toward me and his closeness to Sophia were shaped by Ethan's influence. He was like a blank canvas, his personality molded by those around him. Why was I letting myself get worked up over the words of a 5-year-old? The more I thought about it, the guiltier I felt. My voice caught in my throat as I whispered, Liam, I'm sorry. Mommy shouldn't have left you here. I shouldn't have given you up. I couldn't leave Liam with Ethan. He was so young, and there was still a chance to make things right. The more I thought about it, the firmer my voice became. I leaned down and hugged his small body, murmuring, Liam, come with Mommy. I'll renegotiate custody with your dad. I felt him relax slightly in my arms. He even nestled his head closer to me, as if the sweet and thoughtful Liam I once knew had returned. He stayed cuddled in my embrace for a long time before softly saying, Don't bother. You won't get custody of me. I gently patted his head and replied firmly, Mommy will trade the assets I got from the divorce with your dad for you. Liam pushed me away, his red-rimmed eyes meeting mine. In the most innocent yet cruel voice, he said, Mommy, don't be naive. Staying with Dad means I have Aunt Sophia to take care of me. I get chauffeured in luxury cars and attend prestigious schools. But with you, you can't give me anything. Besides, Dad will never let me go. You can't even leave this house without looking back. I was silent for a moment. The words caught in my throat, making it hard to breathe. Mommy will try her best to talk to your dad, I finally managed to say. Liam's little face remained cold as he interrupted my weak attempt. Mommy, I won't go with you, and you're not fit for our family. When Aunt Sophia came back, you should have stepped aside for her. Just leave and don't come back. I don't want to see you anymore. From now on, my mom will be Aunt Sophia. These words weren't new to me, but they still pierced my heart. Tears welled up as I stared at the child I had carried for 10 months and brought into this world. Liam turned his head away, pointing his tiny finger toward the door. Go away. I don't want to see you again. I didn't move and continued to look at him. The next second, the cup on the bedside table flew toward me, shattering at my feet. A shard of porcelain cut my ankle, and a thin line of blood appeared. The sharp pain in my ankle made me feel like my earlier regret for leaving him was a joke. Liam wasn't influenced by Ethan. He was naturally cold and indifferent, someone who simply didn't love me. I took 2 steps back and turned to leave his room. As I crossed the threshold, I couldn't help but look back one last time. Liam, if I leave, I really won't come back again. In response, another cup shattered behind me. I wiped my tears and left without looking back. On my way out, I ran into the housekeeper. She looked at me with concern and then glanced toward Liam's room. Did Liam upset you again? I shook my head and said softly, I upset him, and please don't contact me about him anymore. He doesn't want to see me. With that, I walked away, leaving the housekeeper far behind. Faintly, I heard her murmuring, How could that child not love you? He even calls your name in his sleep. I wiped away the tears threatening to fall again and shook my head. Impossible. I thought. Liam had repeatedly told me he didn't need me. On my way back, familiar scenes passed by outside the car window. Suddenly, the city felt terrifyingly unfamiliar. My phone vibrated constantly during the ride, displaying an unknown number. When I finally answered, it was Ethan's voice on the other end. Emily, Liam is sick. Why didn't you stay to take care of him? I let out a bitter laugh, anger rising in my chest. Ethan, isn't this exactly what you wanted? Liam doesn't want me as his mom anymore. You must be very pleased with yourself. Ethan sounded flustered, his voice quick and panicked. That's not what I meant. I just wanted Liam to stop resenting Sophia. Unable to hold back my emotions any longer, I shouted, my voice hoarse. So you chose to make Liam hate me instead? Emily, I didn't mean it that way. I wanted Liam to accept Sophia, so you wouldn't have to be so hostile toward her. I laughed coldly, cutting him off. Ethan, tell me, why should I accept Sophia? Why should I accept the woman who ruined my marriage? Ethan fell silent for a long time, so long that I lost the will to continue arguing. I ended the call and stared out at the rows of trees flashing past the car window. Suddenly, I no longer wanted to stay in this city. Holding my phone tightly, I leaned forward and asked the driver, Do you take long-distance trips? I'd like to go to Benton. That was my parents' hometown, and I missed them. After submitting my resignation and returning to the hotel to pack my things, I headed to Benton. I admit I was running away. I was afraid that I'd waver and, for Liam's sake, compromise and fall back into that bottomless abyss. After all, when I was younger, I gave up my paintbrushes for a secret, unrequited love, and for over a decade, I never picked them up again. Occasionally, when I felt melancholic, I'd pull out my sketchboard and hesitate, wondering if I should start again. But each time, I would be defeated by the demands of work and Liam's repeated cries of "Mom." Now, after the divorce, those chains were gone, and I felt as though I had been reborn. Perhaps I should thank Liam. If he had clung to me even a little, I might still be struggling in that abyss. But now, everything was as it should be. In Benton, I rented a small cottage and began my journey of living alone. Life bloomed around me like the vibrant colors in an oil painting, vivid and free. My days were filled with carrying my sketchboard outdoors and spending quiet nights curled up in my little home with a book. While sketching, I befriended a group of strangers, mostly retired elders and students from a nearby art school. We never planned our meetings, but we always seemed to run into each other at picturesque spots. Together, we painted emerald lakes, golden fields, and sunsets drenched in fiery hues. First, I struggled with my paintings. Whenever someone passed by, I would quickly try to hide my work, afraid of being laughed at. But as I painted more, my confidence grew. Mistakes became less intimidating, and I realized that the real fear was not having the courage to start over. One day, while painting an autumn lakeside scene, I felt dissatisfied with my work. The colors weren't bright enough, the contrast was lacking, and the composition felt disconnected. Still, I didn't give up. I picked up my brush and carefully worked on each detail, trying to bring the image in my heart to life. By the time the sun set, my back ached, and my hands were sore. But as I set my brush down, a sense of relief washed over me. Staring at the finished painting, I finally smiled. "It's done," I said to myself. "Not bad at all." An elderly voice called out behind me. "It's a big improvement from your earlier work." First, I thought this young lady had ruined the painting and didn't dare look. Worried you'd be embarrassed like when you first came here. But look at you now. This turned out wonderful. I turned to see one of the retired men smiling warmly at me. His words filled with encouragement. For the first time in a long while, I felt genuinely proud of myself. I looked up to find a group of elderly men and women gathered around me, quietly critiquing my painting. They praised my progress, teased me about my initial shyness when I used to hide my work, and encouraged me to keep going. Surrounded by their warmth, I pressed my lips together and smiled. Exactly. So what if I make mistakes in my painting? My hand won't stop moving. I can always adjust the strokes, turning them into the image I want. Even if it's hard, even if the result isn't perfect, I'm always moving forward, heading in the direction I want to go. My life is no different. Autumn in Benton passed quickly, and before I knew it, snowflakes began to fall. The cold weather reduced our outdoor sketching trips, and I started painting at home for my own enjoyment. To document my progress, I began streaming my work online without showing my face. During my streams, I often talked to myself. "This color doesn't seem right. Let's try this one. Oh, much better. Everything looks more harmonious now. And this contrast of light and shadow? Amazing. I'm a genius." Over time, my stream gained a few hundred followers. Many would join my sessions to chat or listen to my rambling commentary. Two usernames stood out to me: Stardust and Kiddo. Stardust was one of my earliest fans, while Kiddo showed up about a month later. What made them memorable was their generosity. They were my top two supporters, constantly showering me with donations despite my attempts to discourage them. They also seemed to know each other, frequently bickering in the chat. Stardust was serious, often critiquing my work while still acknowledging my progress. Kiddo, on the other hand, was adorably supportive, praising my work even when I made mistakes. Their differences often led to heated exchanges. "Kiddo, do you even know how to paint? Stop being so annoying and critical." Stardust, "At least I'm better than a middle schooler who doesn't know anything." Kiddo, "You talk too much. No wonder you don't have a wife." Stardust, "Well, your mom left you too, didn't she?" During my breaks, I'd read their arguments and often shake my head in exasperation. Despite their constant bickering, they were united in defending me. Whenever troublemakers entered the chat to demand I show my face or insulted me, The two of them would join forces to protect my stream. Streaming wasn't about making money for me, so I kept my setup casual. Still, I was touched by their unwavering support. To thank them, I offered to send each of them a painting as a gift. Smiling, I asked them to send me their addresses, but the chat remained unusually silent. Assuming they'd stepped away, I messaged them privately. Thank you for your support. If you don't mind, please leave your address so I can send you one of my recent favorite paintings. Neither responded until the end of the stream. Just as I was about to log off, both addresses came in. To my surprise, they were identical. Even more coincidentally, the city they lived in was the one I had left behind. I stared at their usernames, an absurd thought creeping into my mind. Then, I couldn't help but laugh. How could they possibly be Ethan and Liam? One was probably celebrating a new marriage, while the other was enjoying his newfound noble mother. The next day, braving the heavy snowfall, I went to the local market and bought some of Benton's famous specialties. I carefully packed them with the promise paintings and sent everything to the shared address. When I got home, I skipped my usual midday rest and started streaming again. As always, I set up my sketchboard. Stardust, who I suspected didn't even need a job, was the first to greet me in the chat. Hey, Stardust. I replied casually while focusing on my work. I've already sent the package. Let Kiddo know when you see him. Without waiting for a response, I continued painting, immersing myself in the strokes and colors that had become my new world. Today, while I was out, I saw a heartwarming scene in the snow. A cheerful father, a mother wearing a red scarf, and their round, bundled-up baby, holding hands as soft snowflakes fell gently around them. They looked like a picture-perfect family, just like my parents and me long ago. The moment stayed with me, and I promised myself I'd paint it once I got home. Focused, I poured my emotions into the painting, capturing the idyllic scene on the canvas. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. I frowned, put down my brush, and went to answer it. Standing at the door was my neighbor, a young man with a bright smile and perfectly white teeth. Miss Sue, I noticed a package for you at the delivery station. It's a bag of rice. It looked pretty heavy, so I thought I'd bring it over for you. Looking at the bag of rice in his hand, I remembered the fragrant rice I had ordered online a few days ago. Grateful, I thanked him and reached to take the bag inside. But the neighbor, ever helpful, held on to it. Where do you want it? I'll bring it in for you. Feeling a bit embarrassed, I smiled and pointed toward the kitchen. After he placed it down, I offered him some water and pulled out some fresh fruit I had bought earlier, insisting he take it as a thank you. Once everything was settled, I returned to my easel. As my gaze swept across the screen, I noticed a flood of messages from Stardust in the chat. Who is that man? Why is he in your house? What's your relationship with him? I glanced down at my phone and saw even more messages in my inbox, filled with direct and accusatory questions. The last one read, Emily, answer me. Who is he? Blinking in surprise, I pieced together the truth. Stardust was, without a doubt, Ethan. And if Stardust was Ethan, then Kiddo must be Liam. I didn't bother answering his questions and simply turned off the live stream. I couldn't understand what they wanted from me now. Could it be that, after I left, they finally realized my worth? So, how despicable. For the next few days, I didn't stream and felt relieved I hadn't provided my exact address when setting up the stream. If they truly wanted to track me down, it would take some time, but I didn't expect to see them again so soon. After staying cooped up at home for several days, I decided to step out for a breath of fresh air. Opening the door, I froze. There stood Ethan and Liam, one tall, one small, staring directly at me. Later, I poured Liam a cup of hot water and sat across from Ethan. My expression was cold as I faced him. Meanwhile, he looked around my small home, his face devoid of emotion. Why are you here? I asked bluntly. Liam, holding the glass of water, sat stiffly on the couch with a frosty expression. The sight of the two of them made me let out a derisive laugh. After confirming there were no other men in the house, Ethan's brows relaxed slightly. He looked at me with a softened tone. Emily, it's been a while. How have you been? I furrowed my brows. Spare me the small talk. What do you want? Winter break is coming up. And Liam wanted to see you, he replied. Liam was my son. No matter how he felt about me, I still had a responsibility to care for him as his mother while he was a minor. I turned my gaze to Liam and gently asked, "Do you want to stay here with me?" Liam sipped his hot water, his little face tense as he shook his head. "No. Dad made me come." I lowered my head and let out a bitter laugh. Then, looking at Ethan with a mocking gaze, I said, "Stop using a child as an excuse." Ethan's expression darkened, his tone turning cold. "Liam, speak properly." I was truly out of patience, cutting him off with a cold laugh as he scolded Liam. I said, "Stop putting on a show in front of me. We're divorced. You shouldn't be bothering me anymore. If Liam wants to visit during his winter or summer breaks, have someone drop him off. As for you, I don't think there's any reason for us to meet again." Ethan's lips moved slightly, and a defeated look crossed his face. "Emily, I don't understand. I didn't cheat on you with Sophia. We were just friends. As for what happened that day at the water, I can promise it will never happen again. From now on, I'll put you first in everything. Why did you still divorce me? You used to love me so much. You even injured your leg saving me. What happened to you?" I exhaled slowly, turning to face him directly. "Ethan, did you marry me because you truly loved me? If you really loved me, why did you choose to save her first when both Sophia and I were drowning? Why did you take Liam to see her and tell me to accept her? Don't you dare tarnish the word love. It's disgusting." Ethan's face grew paler with each word, but I couldn't hold back the grievances I'd suppressed for years. "Ethan, when I was young, I did love you, but when I risked my life to save you from that car, it wasn't because I wanted to make you feel grateful. If it had been a stranger in danger, I would have done the same thing. But what did you do? You didn't love me, yet you pretended to out of guilt. You thought you were compensating me, didn't you? And now, you probably think you're the one who's been wronged. My parents raised me to be a kind person, but do you know something? When I realized you pursued me and married me because of guilt, I deeply regretted saving you that day." Ethan stared at me in shock, his eyes growing red. "That's not true. I do love you. I just realized it too late." I took a deep breath and pointed toward the door. "That's no longer my concern. Please don't bother me anymore." The first to leave was Liam. Just before reaching the door, he turned and gave me a long, meaningful look. My heart wavered, and I instinctively called out to him, "Liam, do you want to stay with me for a few days?" His gaze was full of unspoken attachment, but his words were firm and cold. "No, I never stay in such small places." Liam's cruel response seemed to contradict the lingering emotion in his eyes, almost as if it was just my imagination. After they left, I leaned against the door and sighed deeply, my emotions in turmoil. If Liam wanted to stay, I would inevitably be drawn back into Ethan's world. His relentless actions had kept me bound for so long, and it was only through his repeated betrayals that I was finally able to free myself. Later, I moved several more times, but Ethan always managed to find me. With his wealth and influence, I was practically an open book to him. Once I realized this, I stopped obsessing over moving and instead focused on how to deal with him. After dropping Liam off at home, Ethan started shamelessly pestering me. He would often follow me on my walks, reminiscing as if we were back in the past. "Emily, remember when we used to walk like this when we were kids? It feels just like those times again." Even when I joined a group of retirees for outdoor sketching, Ethan would follow in his car, trailing us persistently. As I painted, Ethan quietly watched from the side. When I finished, one of the older retirees, Mrs. Zhao, remarked with a nostalgic smile, "You know, when you used to visit our home as a child, you always carried a sketchboard like this. I thought you loved painting, but later I never saw you pick it up again. Who would have thought that after all these years, you'd start again?" Behind me, a group of elderly friends chuckled and teased, "Emily, is that your boyfriend?" Shaking my head, I replied seriously, "No, he's my ex-husband. We're divorced, but he keeps pestering me." I then recounted the story of our divorce, its causes and aftermath. The group was indignant on my behalf, and the next time Ethan showed up while I was painting, they banded together to block him from getting near me. They didn't mince words, their glares filled with disdain. though touched by their support. I smiled and reassured them. There's no need for this. He'll leave soon. Besides, I've already moved on. And I was right. Ethan left not long after, pulled away by pressing company matters. Before going, he looked at me earnestly and promised, once I finish this busy period, I'll come back for you. I love you. I gave him a faint smile but said nothing. No matter how many times he returned, I would never go back. His belated love was like spoiled milk, its sourness unbearable. True to his word, he returned a few more times, bringing Liam with him in a bid to win me over. Can you really let Liam grow up in a single-parent family? He pleaded. You love him so much. Why not give him the best life possible? But Ethan underestimated how much Liam had changed under Sophia's influence. One day, Liam coldly said, Dad, you can marry Aunt Sophia or anyone else to be my mom. When Ethan turned to look at Liam in shock, I couldn't help but laugh lightly. Without a word, I closed the door in their faces. After a few similar encounters, Ethan stopped bringing Liam along. He continued traveling between Benton and his home city, always repeating the same apologies and declarations of love, but I remained unmoved. Sometimes I even found his persistence amusing. Over time, his visits became less frequent, and by the 5th year, he stopped coming altogether. Perhaps he had grown tired. It didn't matter to me. I was now an emerging oil painter with a modest reputation in the art world. I had also started dating my kind neighbor, the same man who once helped carry a bag of rice to my kitchen. When I decided to marry him, Liam unexpectedly came to visit. He was 12 by then, carrying himself like a little adult. He handed me a bouquet of red roses, his deep, dark eyes reflecting a mature sincerity. Mom, I wish you happiness and peace in the future, he said, placing the flowers in my arms before turning and walking away without looking back. As I watched his departing figure, I felt a bittersweet pang in my chest. I reached for my fiancé's hand and murmured, It's been so long. He seems to have grown up a lot. Wrapping his arm around my waist, my fiancé gently patted my hand in reassurance. Time flies, he said with a smile. On my wedding day, I saw Liam again. I had invited him to the ceremony. Unsure if he'd come, he hadn't given me an answer, so I assumed he wouldn't show. But there he was, dressed in a sharp black suit, waiting to walk me down the aisle, step by step. He escorted me toward my husband-to-be, finally placing my hand into my fiancé's. Then, leaning in close, Liam whispered a warning into his ear. Anyone who hurts my mom won't have a good ending. The last guy is already in the hospital, so you better watch yourself. Startled, my fiancé quickly shook his head and vowed earnestly, I will love her forever and protect her with my life. I turned to look at Liam. His young face was tense, his eyes red, and he fiercely warned others not to bully me. Tears fell from my eyes uncontrollably. Perhaps Liam didn't truly hate me back then. After all, when he was 5, he loved me deeply. Maybe his love was sacrificed to fulfill Ethan's desires. 7 years after our marriage, Sophia returned. I admit, I wavered. Ethan was the love of my youth, someone I once loved with all my heart. But I had never imagined separating from Emily. Yet, during another incident by the water, I instinctively saved Sophia first. That was when Emily asked for a divorce. For a moment, I panicked, but then I reassured myself, convinced he had nowhere to go. He had loved me for so many years, there was no way he would leave me. And there was also Liam, his beloved son. Ever since Liam was born, even I had to step aside. So I was sure he was only angry and would come around. After all, he couldn't possibly leave Liam and walk away from me. But this time, I gambled wrong. Emily didn't just leave me, he left Liam too. I got drunk and called him, asking him to pick me up. I thought enough days had passed for his anger to subside, and this would give him an excuse to return. But he didn't. Over and over, he emphasized that we were already divorced. That night, I returned home lost and defeated. When I entered the living room, I saw Liam playing with a Rubik's Cube Emily had bought for him. When he noticed me, he lifted his eyes for a brief moment, gave me a cold glance, and then lowered his head again. In that moment, an idea struck me. Late at night, I took away Liam's blanket. Sure enough, By the next morning, he had caught a cold. I was convinced Emily wouldn't be able to leave a sick Liam unattended. He would definitely come back. Excited, I instructed the housekeeper to call Emily, and to avoid making him upset, I left the house. Before leaving, I reminded Liam, "Make sure you ask your mom to stay." Liam, his feverish face flushed, nodded silently, satisfied. I left. I thought it wouldn't be long before Emily came back and begged me to reconcile for Liam's sake. But I was wrong again. Emily didn't return. He left the city and moved to his parents' hometown. That was when I began to realize I might really lose him this time. I hired a private investigator to track down his address. I found out he had taken up oil painting, made new friends, and even started live streaming. Foolishly, I convinced myself that he just needed some time away to clear his mind and that he would eventually come back. So, every day, I watched his streams. When Liam found out, he started watching them with me every evening. I thought he probably had the same hope as I did, that Emily would return. After all, Emily wasn't just mad at me. If he could leave Liam, then it was clear even Liam couldn't keep him. I waited like a farmer watching for rabbits to run into a trap, expecting Emily to change his mind. I thought I had enough patience. But the moment I heard another man's voice in his live stream, my composure shattered. Furious, I demanded to know who the man was and what his relationship was with Emily. Emily didn't respond. He simply ended the stream. He must have figured out it was me. Worse than that, though, he still wouldn't forgive me. I realized I couldn't wait any longer. I bought plane tickets and took Liam to Benton with me. On the flight, I repeatedly told Liam to convince his mom to come back. Liam, watching the clouds outside the window, smirked coldly and shook his head. Frustrated, I grabbed his shoulders. "Don't you want your mom to stay with you while you grow up?" Still staring at the clouds, his young voice was calm but distant. "You don't treat her well. Compared to staying with us, I'd rather she be free." I froze, anger bubbling inside me. Impossible. She belongs with us. She belongs with me. Liam, as smart as he was stubborn, had always had a strong mind of his own. Liam glared at me coldly. "Give up. Mom's completely lost faith in you, and I won't help you chain her down." Later, we met with Emily. As Liam predicted, she rejected me, true to his word. Liam didn't try to convince her to return. Instead, he spoke with the sharp precision of a businessman, pushing her further and further away. I refused to let go, clinging to her with desperation, but she treated me as if I didn't exist. By the 5th year after our divorce, I couldn't hold on any longer. I fell gravely ill. As I lay bedridden, Liam stood by my side, sneering. "Serves you right," he said, struggling to sit up. I stared at him for a long time. "Did you do it on purpose? Did you deliberately provoke her so she wouldn't feel attached to this family anymore?" At just 10 years old, Liam was disturbingly mature. His cold gaze met mine, and his voice was as icy as his demeanor. "When that woman returned 5 years ago, Mom cried often behind your back, especially at night. After she put me to bed, she'd hold me and cry so hard. She wanted a divorce, but she couldn't bear to leave me because she knew you wouldn't let her have custody. She suffered for a long time, and during that time, she became so worn down. I loved her. So, since she wanted to leave, I made sure she could leave without a single regret. Yes, I did it on purpose. But isn't the root cause all because of you?" Looking at his prematurely wise expression, I couldn't argue. Suddenly, everything clicked. Why Liam's personality had shifted so drastically. He had always been clingy and loving toward Emily. How could a few words from outsiders have made him hate her so much? His coldness, his cutting remarks, it all had a purpose. He had done it to ensure she could leave freely. My heart ached, but I couldn't help but mock him. "But you lost her too." Liam smiled. A sweet, obedient smile that he only ever showed Emily. "As long as she's happy," he added, almost as an afterthought. "Oh, by the way, she's getting married soon. She invited me to the wedding." My heartbeat spiked erratically. Nurses rushed into the room, their voices urgent as they asked, "What did you say to the patient?" "Leave now. He needs immediate care." Amid the chaos, I caught a glimpse of Liam being reprimanded. His expression remained calm, and he strolled out of the room leisurely. Then everything went dark. Silence and emptiness consumed me. I began to regret everything. If I could go back to the beginning, I would have saved Emily first that day by the water. Maybe then she would never have left me. Liam's perspective. Ethan died when I was 15. After his death, with my grandfather's help, I gradually took over the company. Once I successfully assumed control, I set my sights on the Lin family, ruthlessly destroying them. The woman who once hurt my mom came to beg for mercy. "Think of our childhood friendship," she cried, pleading. "Childhood friendship?" I sneered. "What friendship? The one where you hurt my mom? The one where you drove her away from me?" I shook my head coldly and struck the Lin family even harder. Eventually, they went bankrupt, and I acquired their company. When I found out Sophia was left with millions in debt, I magnanimously allowed her to stay in the company to pay it off. I even went out of my way to assign her former subordinates, those she had mistreated, as her superiors. A few years later, she couldn't take it anymore and ended her own life. It was almost disappointing. Running the company and learning to manage it was exhausting, but I had to do it to protect my mom. I wanted to give her the best of everything. In the past, I pushed her away to ensure her happiness. Now, I work tirelessly to guarantee it. If her current husband ever dared to hurt her like Ethan once did, I would use everything I had to shield her and provide her with a safe haven. I wouldn't act childish or pretend to be cold and indifferent, causing her pain and pushing her away. After all, she loved me so much back then. As an adult, I couldn't let her down again.